Have you ever thought about the open road, traveling across our vast nation to see the many sights of our diverse landscape and culture? Have you considered the winding road, a representation for the endless possibilities and opportunities our unique country holds? You should. It's pretty cool. Our guest tonight will tell us about his travels tonight, along with his film projects from this semester. The Humanities Mass Communications Department at Norwalk Community College presents The New Directors, the show that introduces you to television's future writers, directors, and personalities. And now join our host, Ronald Miner, to meet the next new director.
Thank you for joining us for today's. All the people involved in this program are students in the television production course, directing, switching, controlling, audio, operating cameras, and acting as talent for the first time today. The guests you are about to meet are students who are, when not on camera, are behind the scenes, working hard to bring us their program to you with us, or few mistakes as possible. Each student will write and direct 3 different productions. The program will give them a chance to talk about themselves, the productions that they are planning, and give you the chance to get to know them and watch their progress throughout their semester. Our guest today is NCC student who is also an interesting traveling last year. We would like you to meet today's guest, Colin Q.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about your experience driving cross country.
Well, my brother and I, Kyle, have always spent a long time talking and dreaming of doing a cross-country road trip, and last Christmas we finally got to fulfill that dream for the first time. It started with us visiting our family in Delaware, and our eventual destination was in Carlsbad, New Mexico. It was just me and him in a very rundown old Jeep that somehow managed to survive the trip. Along the way, we made many stops along Memphis, and Dallas and Texas, which is this skyline right here with a very beautiful lit up building whose name I still do not know, and also police officers who thought our car was not good enough to be driving on the road. They had a good point. Along the way, we stopped in Roswell, which was somewhat disappointing with its large amount of nothing at all, aside from pictures of aliens. But we also got to stop in Santa Fe, which had beautiful architecture, and Denver as well, which was a very nice and exciting, thrilling even experience driving through the mountains in the middle of the winter, and again, an old beat-up Jeep that miraculously survived the trip. And finally, our final stop before returning home was along St. Louis, where we got to see the beautiful Archway. Now, Carlsbad, New Mexico is also home to the Carlsbad Caverns, which is a vast connection of natural forming caves that stretch from New Mexico to the Texas border. They reach hundreds of feet down, I want to say maybe miles, possibly. But there are numerous natural entrances and exits and tours for people to go throughout the day. And New Mexico was by far our favorite state. It was vast and kind of exciting with the diverse weather that we got to deal with snow and rain and dust storms and tumbleweeds. Yes, tumbleweeds were pretty shocking to see when they're bigger than the size of your head rolling across the street as you're driving, to 30-mile-per-hour winds and stuff like that.
So, why did you choose to take this TV production course?
Well, throughout my life, I've always had a love for movies, and very recently in life, I've also gotten very invested in writing as well, and spending a lot of time doing that. So it only seemed like a natural fit to take a film class to see if I could try and put those two interests together and see how far I could take them.
So what have you learned taking this course?
Basically all the little tiny things that you don't think about along the way when you're watching a movie. All the basics of setting up and preparing, and the immense importance of preparation, and how many headaches it can prevent from happening along the way, and along with that, editing, which was a very exciting thing to learn about as well.
Tell us about the Sequence project, the Fall and Nature project, and the Orange project.
Well, the Sequence project revolved around my very basic desire to get a very simple small shot, which at the time I had just never done before. And because of that, the idea itself in the sequence is a little bare. It's shorter than it could be, but at the same time I got to experiment and practice just using different camera angles and the difference between a close-up shot, an establishing shot, and mid-shot, and what you can achieve through that. But really, I just wanted to get a shot where I could shift focus in one frame or in one shot, which was harder than I thought it would be at the time. The Fall Nature project was a lot of fun for me. It was where I was able to focus more on the visual aspect of filming and have to worry less about storytelling, which was kind of a relief for me to do for the first time. And it was being purely visual in that sense was very relaxing. I shot it in 2 days back at home, where I got to walk through the woods that I spent a large portion of my childhood walking through in the first place. And finally, with the Orange project, that was me being able to finally combine the elements of those first two projects together, taking the visual aspects of the first project, or of the second project, sorry, and putting a story to it as well, and keeping things visually interesting, which was challenging just with the fact that we weren't allowed to move the camera during the shot. It was hard to maintain energy throughout that process.
What do you feel was your best project?
The project that I'm most proud of at this point is the Fall Nature project. I know it is the least ambitious of the projects, but it was the one where I feel like I adequately prepared ahead of time, and I was able to really focus on the day of what I was doing instead of having to think far ahead of what I would need to do to make things easier, too much, or just be unhappy with myself for taking too long or for not being prepared enough in the past. But this time I was able to look at the visual aspects and play with framing, with finding natural shots and visually interesting shots instead of having to make them, which was a very different aspect that I wasn't quite prepared for. And then along with that, playing with colors as well and lighting.
What are some of the most interesting things you learned in this course?
Well, I'd say the most interesting things for sure were using the ability, or maybe not interesting, but definitely important, because it's not as sexy as you might think, but preparing how unbelievably important it is to go in with a solid game plan that you can follow through on every step of the way, which makes things immensely easier as you go along. And along with that, getting in the editing room for the first time and being able to cut a project, kind of putting together all the pieces and making a nice picture in a puzzly kind of way was more challenging than I anticipated, but also more exciting.
Today we got a chance to meet someone who shared the wonders of traveling around the beautiful nation. We would like to thank Colin for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We hope you enjoyed meeting some of our television's future directors, and we hope you'll continue to join us each week to watch our progress. Thank you and good day.
This has been The New Directors with your host, Ronald Miner, directed by Nathaniel Samberg. I'm your announcer, Joseph Rivera. The New Directors is a Norwalk Community College student production.